This is a progress capture device. This captures progress on... I dropped it. What am I ever gonna do now? We are going to explore in this episode the GARDA hitch, or the Alpine Clutch, where you can just take two carabiners and you can capture progress without a progress capture device. You just gotta put it in a certain way and know a few things about it. So if you Google it, you'll find some really helpful information. So on the American Alpine Institute, the video attached has two carabiners clipped to another carabiner. But in VDIF's detailed article, he has a warning specifically that says you must girth hitch the two carabiners together. If you simply clip the carabiners through a sling or another carabiner, the GARDA hitch will not function correctly. But wait, no. If I go over to Chalkstone's article, they have it directly in a loop. And if you go over to this German video that talks about how to do it and demonstrates an application for it in a crevasse, they're clipping two carabiners directly to the belay loop. And then Alpine Savvy has a well-written detailed article that says it's optional. But on JRB's episode about it, he has a bull hitch squeezing two of them together to make sure that they don't move. Whatever, moving on. Looking at VDIF's article again, you can see that in his drawing he has two locking carabiners, which makes sense. You'd want it locking, right? Oh, shoot, sorry. Alpine Savvy says avoid locking carabiners with a sleeve, as the lock or the sleeve can prevent the rope from locking down properly, since it's the squeezing action of these that's pinching the rope. Oh, sorry. You're supposed to use locking carabiners. On the video from Icicle, there are two locking carabiners that he demonstrates this with. Oh, shoot. JRB's video says you're not supposed to use lockers.
What's important for the GARDA hitch foot loop is that we're using carabiners that are not locking of any kind. They're not auto-locking and they're not screw gates.
He emphasizes it in his other video, also not to use lockers. Now, isn't Google awesome? You can find any answer you want to any question you have, whether or not it's correct. So we are going to explore when and why and how that might matter in a little bit. But let's find out if oval carabiners are the right ones. Now, according to Chalkstone, they said several times, not the ones in the photo. They have photos of ones they don't want you to use, but that you should be using oval carabiners. And that's what I have here in my hand. But then we head back over to VDIF, and it says, in step 1, secure 2 D-shaped carabiners. And in his warning, it is vital that you use D-shaped carabiners. But then jumping back to JRB's video, he's using oval carabiners. So I don't know how important it is to girth hitch it now. I don't know what shape of carabiners to use, and I don't know whether or not I should use locking ones. And I'm not an expert at this, so we're just gonna pull on stuff, test stuff, and see how well it works. Let me show you how to tie it. Now for this demonstration, we have two D-shaped non-locking carabiners that are girth hitched, and you can take your rope and you can clip both carabiners. They're both facing the same way, and going from around again, from the outside, you're going to just clip one of them. And then it's going to cross over itself, and you can pull one strand, it'll capture the other strand. And how you know you did it correctly is you have a strand on the outside here, and you have a strand on the inside here going across both carabiners that is doing all the pinching of that strand right there. And so you can pull and it will capture. Now, luckily on Google, everyone agrees how to tie this. So let me show you how not to tie it. You don't want to take a loop and go in between, because if you do this, you don't have a strand bridging the two carabiners on this part, and it's not going to squeeze. And you can get that to sort of hold, but then it's very unreliable and will come apart because it's wrong. So instant replay, how to do it correctly is you come all the way on the outside, and you're going to have this bridge here pinching that side, and then you clip it only on one. And there you go. That is what it looks like correctly until you pull it, and then it overlaps itself and it holds. Now let's say your rope is fixed and you have two carabiners in your hand, girth hitched. You clip them. You go around and you only clip one of them. And you make sure you have a bridge on this side and that you have a bridge on the inside, so it's going to do the pinching. You can pull up and it'll hold. And this is how you could do it on your belay loop, a foot loop, and we'll show you all sorts of applications in a little bit. But that's how you do that. Now, before I show you where you can use the GARDA hitch, let me ask you a big favor. When you're done wiping and subscribing, please take 5 minutes and practice this at home where your life doesn't depend on it. Please don't wait until you're in a crevasse or you need to belay a friend with it before you're like, that guy I don't know from the internet showed me how to do this, and I forget the name of it, but I think it's tied like this. Do you know where I first applied using the Munter hitch to rappel? It's a good hitch. It works. I like it. I still use it today. But you know where the first time was? 2,850 feet up, rappelling down to the notch of the lost arrow spire. That is not where you're supposed to learn or test or apply things like that. I was inching my ascender down for the first 50 feet because I was terrified that I even tied it correctly. Please don't be like me. It's called How Not To for a reason. Now let's go over to the demonstration station. Welcome to my demonstration station where I'm going to show you one of the 3 ways I'm going to show you on here how you can use the GARDA hitch. And I now have a blank panel to show you demonstrations where I moved all the gear off to the other 3 panels. And I'm going to post that photo in this weekend's email where you can sign up for that at hownotto.com/signup, where we also post all the stuff that we posted that week, so you don't depend on the algorithm. Now, if I want to haul up, in this case, a 10-pound weight or a haul bag or a belaying a friend up, some caveats to that, you want to take the loose strand you'll be pulling and you're going to want to clip both carabiners, the loose strand around and in one carabiner. And then you test it and make sure that you did it right. So I can pull this up. Now, the downside to this is one, it doesn't feel, it's sort of safe while you're standing here, but it doesn't, like, I personally wouldn't belay somebody like this without some sort of a backup, and if you have something to back it up, then you probably have what you need to not use the GARDA hitch. The other downside to this is if you want to lower the bag because you got it stuck under a roof and you need to lower it out, or your friend needs to be lowered, or you need to give them slack or something, this is a one-way valve. You're only going this way. There's no way, if there's a load on here, to separate it out or to get that rope out from underneath it. It is permanent until you can get the load off of this load strand. Now, in Alpine Savvy's article, he talked a lot about the amount of friction that has. I can't even lift this up. His article said 60 pounds to lift a 10-pound weight up. I'm afraid I'm going to blow that bolt out of this wood. But in a 3-to-1, you can take a prusik, clip it to it, take the tail of this, and you could do a 3-to-1. You slide that down and you pull this up and it feeds it through the GARDA hitch. And this does work, it just doesn't give you a lot of mechanical advantage. According to Alpine Savvy's article, it gives you 1.5 to 1 rather than the theoretical 3-to-1 you should get with a 3-to-1. But it does lock and it is pretty nifty. It depends what you're using it for. This is a great trick to have in your toolbox. Just understand it before you depend your life on it or somebody else's. Notice I got 2 carabiners girth hitched here. Now, if I clip it directly to a ring, is that gonna give me the same results? Put it in twice, clip the one, pull it. It works in a perfect scenario where I'm not panicking, cold, wet, tired, or thirsty. So, you must play with this a lot before you use it in real life. Let me show you how to 3-to-1 yourself. Now, if you find yourself 300 millimeters off the deck with nothing but a prusik above you that you're attached to, you might want to tie in. Makes me feel better. Now, you can take the loose strand of this right now, and you can try the GARDA hitch. Now, there's a lot of cons to this other than the pros. You got to go across both. Make sure you do it right. You got a bridge on top, bridge on bottom. Make sure it's crisscrossed applesauce in a way that will pinch. Now, I have a carabiner up here on my prusik in order to not put that on the same carabiner as my personal anchor, so I'm not nylon sawing my personal anchor. It looks like it's correct. Checking my work. There we go. And then you can 3-to-1 yourself up, which really sucks. People think that's efficient somehow. Loosen up your prusik, slide it up, and continue. Now, let's say I want to go back down to show you the other way. Guess what? I can't. Not only do prusiks suck for that, VT prusiks are better, there is no way, see, slack, there's no way for me to get down now. So, that is why I personally like these personal anchors that would allow me to get off, because then I can push the button underweight and get off to show you the next one. With a normal prusik and a GARDA hitch, that is awful. You are only going that direction if you don't have anything else to transfer your weight. Personally, I like to use my feet. I like to stand and more or less pistol squat my way up. Let me show you what that could look like. Instead of having this on me and having it as an essential part of my setup, what I could do is the almighty girth hitch that we learned may or may not be important, that we'll be testing later. Can't GARDA hitch without 2 carabiners. I'm only 300 millimeters up. By the way, careful girth hitching things that are small. There we go. There we go. Now it's safe. If I'm like this, then you can go like that. Do your GARDA. Go up like this, and then stick your foot in there. And then stand up on that because that's less life supporting. Look how much easier that is. This is probably gonna be my favorite use of this, is not having anything but a sling and 2 carabiners. And I could just step in this and I could go, whoop. And it's reliable enough for my foot. If it slips, well then I factor 2 fall. Hashtag not a personal anchor, it's a body positioning device. So that would be bad. I don't know, what do you think? How would you use this? So you can use the GARDA hitch to lift something up. You can technically use it to lift yourself up, or you can use it for your foot. I like JRB's video where he uses it for his foot, but he also attaches himself to it as a secondary tie-in point for redundancy. Now, let's brake test things. So we're gonna test non-locking Ds, we're gonna test non-locking ovals, locking Ds and locking ovals and HMS because somebody said not to do that, and so it makes me want to do it. Then we're going to test it girth hitched to here, but we're also going to test it where it's just clipped to a carabiner like this to see if that makes any difference. We're going to start by testing on 11.4 millimeter, 9 millimeter, and 6 millimeter rope. So it desheaths it. I guess that makes sense. Everything that pinches something hard enough eventually does this to a rope. That one desheathed at 10. And though these carabiners sit nicely now with an 11 millimeter rope in between them, they did not. But you can see the sheath was torn and it slid off the end of the short tail. And this is hollow right here. To save time, we're gonna put these locking Ds directly on a carabiner, not girth hitch them unless it slips. And you can see that the locking mechanism isn't even touching with an 11 millimeter cord in there. So let's pull on that and see if it desheaths. That is so cool. And it desheathed roughly the same as before. Now let's not waste your time or the rope to test 11 millimeter on every situation because it's just gonna desheath. Let's jump over to this 9 millimeter semi-static nylon and see what happens. Wow, that desheathed as well. It just pinches the crap out of this stuff. That's wild. Oval's got a lower number again. So with this one, you can see the 2 locking mechanisms are rubbing each other. Oh, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad. Make sure I'm doing this right here. So, in that way, go from the outside, flip that one, and when you pull it, it sits like it's supposed to until it doesn't. I'm gonna lock it because that's the whole point of having lockers. Let's see how it does again. Well, that time it worked. I guess it's concerning that that's not reliable because as soon as they cocked off to the side that, well. Now we're gonna try these locking Ds girth hitched. So that gave us similar results. These lockers definitely look sketch. We're gonna put them directly on this carabiner. So this is interesting. You can see that I put it incorrect, but when I try to set it just for the test, this carabiner in the back isn't touching this carabiner at all. So that means when I adjust it, it affects these 2 carabiners to where they want to offset now. And so I go like this, and it doesn't want to stick because it's not pinching well enough inside of there. So if you're just willy-nilly with this thing, it won't hold until it kind of gets grabby right there, but not enough to like, I wouldn't trust that. But if you do it just right and you hold them there, I can get it to hold. I could probably get that to break high. I could even get that to desheath, but the fact that it instantly undoes itself because these roll off of each other, that is probably why they don't recommend using lockers. But let's just set this in place. Best case scenario, you get it to hold. Let's see what happens if I do that. Oh, it finally got one to slip. Oh, interesting. It slips at 6, but it's hard to get it to stay in that position. Check out these HMS carabiners. There is quite a bit of a gap up here, and the way they sit sort of looks okay until, let's say we do this, we orientate and force it into the correct orientation. It's pinching sort of good enough, but as I do this, it wants to ride up this side of the HMS on the bottom one, and as soon as you can see I'm working it back and forth, that gap right there is massive, and if that tail goes there, it slips, and then it goes here, and then it kicks it out. So you could test this at home if something, oh god, if it's gonna work for you or not, depending on what you're doing. Now this isn't girth hitched, but this is basically the worst configuration, obviously. Yeah, that doesn't hold. I wouldn't trust that at all. What I'm curious about is if I were to change the orientation of this to be the opposite. That seems like another bad idea, but let's test that one. Wow, we were able to hack it. Hashtag not recommended. I'm in the camp of don't use this for life supporting stuff without a backup, though I am impressed that it holds until it desheaths the rope. Technically, stronger than an ascender if it holds. Let's see what a skinny 6mm does in all of these configurations. Wow, that's violent. Wait a minute. It broke in the knot. This was still in the carabiner. I think that's where it was pinched. Holy moly, that is full strength. Similar number. This one broke in the carabiners though. Now for girth hitch de-locking carabiners, that doesn't look like it's gonna pinch. There, it's slipping now. High 3s. Technically enough, that would hold whatever you're hauling. So now we have 2 locking ovals on a carabiner not girth hitched. Let's see how it does. Oh, that's slipping pretty low. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Depends what you're using it for, if that would work or not. So the same idea again on these HMS carabiners. If I put that in correctly and then flip that over, I could do this until I just do it enough to where it works itself loose. See how it shifts over to this side, and then it's pretty much comes off there, and then it's completely loose. So this is really unreliable because this guides it up towards here. But again, we can see what happens if we do opposite and opposing on those, because it guides it towards each spine, pushing it like this. Every time I do it, it seems to work. Whoa, it didn't break in here. Our worst configuration broke it in the knot. These aren't even girth hitched together. Ooh, you can see it started to fail. Full-ish strength for 6mm. Now I'm keeping track of these results as I go, and we'll make sure that's at the end of the video, in the description, maybe on the website. But notice this is all nylon, and Dyneema or HMPE sheathed ropes are going to be more slippery. HMPE is very slippery. So we're going to test 2 of those. We're gonna do Glacier Black Newt and Pure Line. And luckily, we sell it by the foot. Let's head over to the store. Welcome to tomorrow and welcome to the store. Let me show you where we keep the ropes. So this is this weekend's orders that fill up quite a few boxes. This pegboard is nuts. This is where your orders get packed. But what I wanted to show you was this rope by the foot room. This is not gonna look like R2-D2 after we get a hood for this, but we just don't wanna smell it after we cut stuff on the hot knife. And not everything can be cut on a hot knife, including this HMPE. So we're going to take some Pure Line in order to test it. And we actually have a box of scraps, which is what I use for a lot of the tests. Here's some of the Newt. And it looks like we got some pure line. So I don't have to cut any. Ever wonder what an 800-meter rope looks like? That's CE4 Wise ropes, come on 800-meter spools. A lot of these comes on 200-meter spools. Some of these come on 100-meter spools. And pit rope is 366 meters. We have a fancy rope counter, and some ropes need to be cut and some need a hot knife. And we're gonna make an entire episode on how to treat the ends of your rope later. Now let's go test these back at the lab. Let's start with 2D non-lockers, girth hitched. Oh, what is it? Oh, no way. It broke on this side. Not that this is good for your rope. Wow. Now this sheath is 50% Vectrin and 50% HMPE. But let's test this onto locking these with them girth hitched together. Apparently, figure eights are worse for this than the GARDA hitch. That is very squished though. Check that out, it's a half rope. Again at 10.36. 2 non-locking ovals girth hitched. And again, consistent results. Except we got a higher result. This looks like it's gonna do poorly. Let's see how it does. Does slip. These carabiners don't sit well next to each other. It took 6 kN to start slipping, but it wouldn't even level out. Let's see how the HMS carabiners do. I should probably be filming the other side if that's where it keeps breaking. Inside of that knot. Oh my gosh, it was at 10 kilonewtons. Now for the one that I'm most curious about, since Pure Line is 100% Dyneema sheath and Dyneema core. Oh, is it slipping? Oh, it tore it. Oh, that's sick. Holy moly, that's pretty good. Not bad for a 6mm cord. Girth hitched locking Ds. It desheaths it, and then it'll go forever around the core. That was a little bit higher. Very consistently continuing to slip at 2.1. 2 non-locking ovals. Wow, it's slipping so much lower. And is that opening? Oh, that's terrible. Wow, don't use ovals. I don't think 2 oval lockers are gonna do any good, but we'll test it anyways. Oh, that did terrible. Instant replay. Damn it. That's a lot of nothing. The HMS carabiners have done well. Let's see how this does. Hold, baby, hold. Ah! It worked! Holy cow! That's not recommended by anybody on the internet. That's pretty good. I don't recommend this way, but it also ended up being quite reliable. I hope that was helpful, but please understand that when you watch something on the internet that you think you know it better than you actually do. You really do have to practice this stuff before you should depend your life on it. Weird that I have to say that, but you can go to Discord. We have a link in the description where you can go and prove to us that you practice at home, and we'll call it a GARDA Hitch accountability group. And that's where we can have a conversation about the GARDA Hitch, things that I might not have brought up, and you can maybe even learn more about it there, or in the comments below. You can see that in our data, if it held, it was super good enough. And that's the caveat, I guess, is if it held. Now, sometimes it was stronger than the knot, and I'm pretty impressed because an ascender would typically desheath a rope sooner than the GARDA hitch was, which I was not expecting. We'll see you in Saturday Email's newsletter, where we will include that spreadsheet and graph, and also some lab photos. And thank you for those who choose to buy their GARDA hitch from hownotto.com. And for a limited time only, we are offering, damn it, I want it to be one flow, I don't want there to be cuts. And thank you for those who choose to buy their GARDA hitches from hownotto.com. And for a limited time only, a free GARDA hitch comes with every 2 carabiner and rope. Some assembly required.